Not maybe at the end, just you guys.
You got it.
And she had no idea what I was talking about. Why didn't anyone tell me? So no one, obviously no one told me. So I was like, okay. I'm going to out of bounds. It was out of bounds. I have 3 periods here when I go to Here's his website. Two or three questions. And this orchestra. Good job, man. You did an awesome job. Wait. You give it to me.
Your parents are all on YouTube live, but it's my great pleasure to introduce one of the probably the most critically acclaimed musicians to ever walk through Kennedy High School from this very room. Senior girl from the Boston Pops, Boston New York.
It's a real privilege to be here. I really appreciate all of you inviting me back to my alma mater. It's been a long time. Last time I was here was 1974, a long time ago. And the school looks fantastic. It looks a lot better than I remember. So what I want to do today, I'm in the middle of a concert tour with the Boston Pops Orchestra. Typically, our orchestra of 90 members tours a number of times a year. That could be a tour anywhere as far as Japan, as close as Connecticut. On this tour, we left Massachusetts, we went through Connecticut, swing through New Jersey, New York, upstate New York, back home, and have 2 days off, then go back out for a while. And then we settle into Boston to do 52 Christmas concerts in December. It's been a great honor for me to play with one of the premier orchestras in the United States, and one of the oldest. The Boston Pops is over 100 years old. It was founded to present popular music to the masses. That's why it's called the Boston Pops. The Boston Pops and the Boston Symphony are one organization. The symphony plays the more legit or classical pieces, Mahler, Beethoven, Mozart, and the Pops plays music that incorporates music of a contemporary nature. In the 60s, they played a lot of Beatles stuff, arrangements of Beatles stuff. Today, we don't play that much what I would call contemporary pop music. It's very difficult to play live because so much of it is electronically synthesized. That said, we did do some stuff with Nick Jonas and Demi Lovato not long ago. And we still do a lot of that, but since about 20 years ago, they hired a relatively unknown composer to be our music director. His name's John Williams. John had just written Star Wars, the new music Star Wars. He was hired to be a music director. And John brought in a lot of film music, incorporated a lot of film music into our repertoire. Of course, we play a lot of his music, and we'll be leaving soon to go to Texas and Florida for tours and all John Williams program. John's written, of the 10 top movies of all time, he's written the music for 8 of them. They include Jaws, E.T., Home Alone, Harry Potter, Star Wars, all the really good stuff. And he's a fantastic person, a fantastic music director, and a fantastic composer, and a good friend of mine. His brothers, interestingly enough, are both percussionists. I knew his brothers before I knew John. And John's father was a percussionist. So John writes some very, very challenging percussion parts. We like to be challenged. There's 5 of us in the percussion section. We have a timpanist and 4. You know, in the orchestra is a funny, I call it an animal. It's a funny animal. I've been with the Pops 41 years. And the different sections kind of work independently in some ways, that there's a section leader, and that section leader is responsible for what goes on in that section. Of course, the conductor, the music director, is responsible for the overall musical direction of the organization. In our percussion section, where we make it a point to make sure that we are well balanced, that we don't overshadow what's going on in the orchestra. We realized long ago that typically we don't have the melody, that we're accompanying the other instrumentalists. So we're always sensitive. We're playing one night, it could be a concert hall the next. And so we always have to adjust what we're doing. Unfortunately, we do not rehearse on the road. I mean, fortunately, because we work hard enough. But what happens is usually the first piece we play, we use that to adjust what we're doing. So we're always listening. And I tell my percussion students, or when I used to teach, the most important part of playing percussion is listening. It's listening. And you can say that about any musician. Really, your ears are the most important thing. Be able to hear and know how to fit in. While I'm talking, if there are any questions, just raise your hand. I'm not going to play much today. I'm going to do mostly talking, and I'd rather answer your questions because some of what I have to say may not be interesting. But I do want to start off with just what I call kind of quantum physics of music. And as musicians, we all learn to play our instruments. We're practicing scales. You know, we're woodshedding, we're practicing hours a day. But what is it we're doing? So who wants to tell me what music is? Basic question. Anybody want to take a guess? Go ahead. You're thinking. Well, what separates music from noise? You want to guess?
I was going to say vibrations. So it's like
Vibrations. Music is vibrations. Noise are vibrations, too. But there's a distinct difference, yes. Music does create feeling. Noise can create feeling. Imagine there's an explosion in the back of the building. That creates some feeling for us. Yeah. Yes?
patterns of movement.
Patterns. We're on the right track now. Yeah. Who else? Anybody else? Yes.
Music is like appealing to the brain.
Feelings of the brain?
Appealing. Like
Appealing. Yes, absolutely. There is an appeal of music that noise does not have. The way I like to think about it is music is organized vibration, organized sound. That it's constructed. Noise is random. So when we're playing music, we want to take sound and vibrations and organize it in a manner that elicits emotions or thought or touches us in some way. A lot of times when we listen to music, we're instantly transported to a place or a time in our lives or a romance. We remember something and it brings up a lot of feeling. And that's the power of music. The power of music is so great that it lasts through generations and over centuries. Music is enduring, and it's one of those things that in life is very, very important. Everybody I know I've ever met in my life listens to music. There's nobody who doesn't listen unless they're unable to hear. But music is so integral to our experience as humans that it's very, very important. So we're organizing sound, but when you think about it, in an orchestra we may have 90 members, violinists, 40 violins, violas, cellos, basses, all the winds, all the brass, and we're all bringing something in. We're like little cogs or wheels in a machine and that machine has to be well oiled to move together and to make music. Next time you have the chance, take a look at a score, whether it's a concert band score, an orchestra score, and look at all the lines, and just think about all the thought and all the structure that's there on the paper, and what we have to do to play that and make music out of it. What I thought I'd do is, I thought I'd start out playing something by John Williams. It's a piece he wrote for us called Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. It's actually from the movie Home Alone. He used it at the end of the movie. At the end of all movies, there's something called end titles. At the end, they show everybody who worked on the movie, and they play. There's usually a piece played. So this is the end title from Home Alone, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. We're not playing it on this concert. We play it all the time, but I thought I'd demonstrate, kind of as a percussionist, what I typically have to do. In this piece, I'm just playing the glockenspiel and the chimes, but it's a demanding glockenspiel part. But I am going to need your help here. There's a part with, there's a chorus in this where the chorus yells yes. So I need you to do that. Can everybody help me with that today? So if I want to give you and yes. Okay, let's try it. And yes. Louder than that. One. And yes. Good. I know it's early, but I'm going to be working hard on wasn't running around doing a lot of things in that piece. I was just playing pretty much glockenspiel and chime. But it's got some very tricky runs in there that you need to be exactly with the orchestra, exactly the right notes, and with everything. Any questions about that? Yeah.
How long does it take for you to learn a piece like that?
How long did it take you to learn? Well, I could just share with you, when I was here at Kennedy, at that time, high school was just 3 years. It was 10, 11, and 12. Junior high was 7, 8, 9. So when I entered Kennedy, I was practicing an hour to 2 hours a day, consistently every day, because I wanted to get the music conservatory. Once I got the conservatory, I was doing 4 to 6 hours a day, through 4 years of that. And to this day, I still practice at least an hour a day, even if it's at 6 in the morning sometimes. That's the only time I have, but I do need to keep warming up. And like last night at the concert, we got there 2 hours early, ate dinner, so I practiced for an hour before the concert. It takes a long time. I've been doing it. I'm 63, so it's a long time. Yeah. Any other? Yes.
Do you ever get like burned out from practicing?
Yes, definitely, quite often. But you have to push through. I mean, the way it is, kind of the level I play, it's like sports. If you want to play what we call in the major leagues, it's super competitive. When I went to New England Conservatory of Music, there were 4 openings for students and 62 people auditioned. They picked 4, and then when you get out of school, if there's an opening, like in the Boston Pops and Symphony, if there's an opening now, they get over 200 applicants. And then you audition 30 or 40 of those, you pick one. So it's very competitive. So it is a lot of sacrifice and a lot of perseverance. If you want to do it though, this is what you need to do. And if you do it, you study, you're thoughtful, you should be able to be successful. You just have to push through. There's times where I don't even want to look at these instruments. I mean, I do go on vacation every year for 2 weeks where I don't take drumsticks. I don't do anything. I just sit on a beach and regenerate. Yes?
What do you find like the most effective ways to use that time practicing?
That's an excellent question, because from teaching I could tell you that most people don't practice correctly. How do you practice and what do you practice? Most people practice, they think practicing is just repeating. And I don't repeat things that I could already do. If I could already play it, I don't practice it. If there's a small, for instance, some of this I could play, I don't have to practice it. But before I came here, before I left home, there's one little measure that was giving me trouble. It's this. That's a little tricky, so I was fumbling over it. So I slowed it down. I usually have a metronome. Okay, I do that 10 times, then I go step down. Until I could play it in tempo. Usually in the music, the tempos are marked. Although different conductors take things different tempi, we know about what it is. So what I do is, unless I can play it by myself 10 times perfectly, I know I'm not ready to play it in a concert hall. So I'd always work on something. So to answer your question, 90% of what I play, I don't practice because I don't need to. So I just focus on the problems. It's almost like a car. If your car broke down, you go to a mechanic. The mechanic isn't going to take it all apart and put it back. He's going to diagnose what's wrong here. Oh, well, one of your spark plugs is bad. You got to bring the spark, so you just do that, fix it. So I'm always fixing what needs fixing. And that's not to say things don't go wrong. Anyone who tells you that professionals don't make mistakes is lying. The difference is an amateur makes mistakes and everybody knows it. Let go. They do something to indicate I made a mistake. I'll make a mistake and I'll just keep going. Pretend it didn't happen. It's water under the bridge, things happen, I'm human. So a professional makes mistakes and nobody knows it. Now in the section, like last night, one of my colleagues came in wrong on one thing. I don't know why, but he did. Nobody said anything. He knew it, we knew it. The conductor, I'm not sure, knew it, probably knew it. But things happen, we're human. And we have kind of in the percussion section, we have this kind of saying where if something goes wrong, say something happened, we don't say, well, it's not brain surgery. No one died. It's not a horrible thing. Things happen. I mean, if it's a really bad mistake, it could be problematic. You could get called into the conductor's room. It's happened over the years. What's happened last night? You guys came in wrong. Why did you do this? Well, maestro, it was just a mistake. We're sorry. We'll make sure it doesn't happen again. It's not always that nice. I mean, sometimes people get upset, but it happens. Part of my career, besides playing, has also been, besides my business, which I'll talk about in a minute, is a union representative. Now, the musicians have a union. The union is a group that protects the interests of the workers. You've heard of the Auto Workers Union, and there's different types of carpentry unions. Musicians have a union, the American Federation of Musicians. So what happens is, I was the union's, what's called a steward for a long time. So when we're traveling, our contract says you can only travel 4 hours a day. You're not allowed to travel more than 4 hours. So if we're traveling more than 4 hours, I'm the one that has to go to the manager and say, hey, you violated the contract, now you owe us a penalty. You owe us more money. And I have to enforce the contract. It's very complicated these days between management and the musicians, where sometimes you have to do things to be a lot more flexible than we used to be, especially with travel. Things changed since 9/11. And before 9/11, we would go on an airplane. We had our own airplane, charter. And you just walk out, carry your instruments, sit wherever you want, no security. But now it's much tighter, so it takes us hours to go through security. All the instruments and all the stuff. I've been stopped before for these, triangle leaders. And I had a triangle in my bag, so they pulled me off. Oh, what's that? I said, it's a triangle. And the TSA said, I know it's a triangle, don't be wise. You're being a wise ass. He said, no, it's a triangle, it's a musical triangle. I play this. Oh yeah, if you play it, let's hear it. So I took it out in the airport. Can I go now? But it took about 15 minutes to go through security. So things, you know, there's parts of being a musician that are beautiful. Playing music, harmonious. It's also a business. We're in the business of music. The Boston Pops sells tickets. They raise money. It's very expensive to send our orchestra on tour. I heard it costs about $1 million a week for us to tour. It's very, very expensive. So they have to make sure they make money, or at least don't lose money, so we can continue to be in operation. Yes?
I was going to ask, how does it feel now that, like, you have everything that you're working for? Is it, like, ever not, is it, like, anything that you still want that you work for, or you like?
That's a good question. How does it feel? It feels good. I mean, it's been a lot of work, and there's a lot of days where it's not as pleasant for me as other days. I mean, I go to rehearsal in Boston. Sometimes I sit in traffic for 2 hours to get to rehearsal. It's aggravating. I'd rather not be going. But the bottom line is, when I came here, when I was in Kennedy, I knew I wanted to be a musician. And so I used to go to Carnegie Hall on the weekends and see orchestras. And I used to sit in the back row, very back row, with actually some other Kennedy bandmates. We all had tickets. And I used to watch the orchestras and just dream about someday, maybe I can be that. And I was able to achieve that, so that feels great, and I'm happy about that. I've had a very fulfilling career. It's been wonderful. Played a lot of great music. I'm at the point now where I'm thinking about, I'm at the end of my career, and how am I going to transition? I play piano at home all the time. So it feels good, but it's been, I've had to work very, very hard for it. It's been if I didn't tell you it was a lot, it wasn't a lot of work, I would be lying. But it's enjoyable work, most of it. Yes?
Was there a single, I guess, definable moment where you realized that you wanted music to be part of your life and career for the rest of your life, or was it just something you kind of feel?
It's a really good question. I don't think there's been one moment, but I have to say my years here at Kennedy, when I came in, I loved music, and I thought I wanted to do music, but I wasn't sure. And when I got involved with the music program here, I had so much fun, and it was so interesting. And I actually used to do a little composing, and I used to write. We had a percussion ensemble when I was here. And I used to write for the percussion. We played pieces. And so it was over time. It was probably, by the time I was a senior here, I knew that's what I was going to do. Now, I wasn't sure, would I be a music education major? I wasn't sure. I actually entered as a music education major. I was like, well, if I'm a music education major, I can get an education degree, and I could, if I wanted to teach, I could teach, but I could also play. Just because you have an education degree doesn't mean you can't be a professional player. We used to have some people in the orchestra who had different math degrees and different things. As long as you could play, you could play. So there was no one defining moment. It kind of evolved over. But when I was a senior here, I had senioritis so bad. I had it so bad, and I just wanted to get to music school already. You know, I was able to get through that and buckle down and do what I needed to do to get my diploma. It was kind of like a bug. I don't know. Does that resonate to anybody? You kind of get this. I gotta do it.
What made you choose percussion?
Okay, I'll tell you honestly. And if you ask any of the percussionists of my generation in the 60s, why did you choose? Actually, I was a drum set player. I saw a drum set. Because I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, and I saw Ringo, I said, I want to do that. So I was a drum set player. Before I came to Kennedy, I played mostly drum set. But then once I started getting into percussion, there were a lot of good drum set players. So I figured, well, I'm just one of a number of good drum set players, but maybe I can be the best percussionist. So I started focusing more on mallets and studying mallets. But I still play drum set, but just not professionally. Yes, sir.
Do you play any non-percussion instruments?
I play piano. Piano is technically a percussion instrument. I do play piano, jazz piano. And actually, I practice piano about an hour or two a day. But I don't play it professionally. I'm not good enough. But I enjoy it. So I'll play with friends. And my wife's a singer, so I'll accompany my singer. My wife. Though sometimes that doesn't go so well. She doesn't think I'm good enough. I'm not. All right, well, I thought I'd also do a little something that's a little different than what you would see in an orchestra, except for our orchestra. What makes the Boston Pops different than all the other symphonies, I think I mentioned we play a lot of pop music, Latin music. We had all the people from Dancing with the Stars coming up for a week, and we played with all the Dancing with the Stars. Everybody seen that show, Dancing with the Stars? Yeah, they do a lot of Latin music, a lot of Latin dances. So I do play hand drums and Latin music, and so I want to play a number that I was playing hand percussion in. It's an old group called Sergio Mendes, Brazil 66. It's a samba. Now the difference about playing Latin percussion and what I was just doing with John Williams, when I was playing John's piece, of course every note is notated. There's no improvisation. There's no room for interpretation, really. When you're playing Latin or drum set, you're just given basically a roadmap, and it's almost improvisatory in nature. So what I want to do is play this piece and show you a couple of different ways that I would interpret it that would change the sound of the music. And I'm going to ask you some questions, so please listen carefully. Let's see. Excuse my back. It's going to take it's going to take a minute to download. While it's doing, let me just tell you kind of a little bit about what I'm going to do. So here we have bongos and congas. When I'm playing, every note isn't written, but it's a feel is written. It may say a samba or a groove, what we call a groove. So what I want to do is, I'm going to play a groove, and I'd like everybody to clap on one. See if you can find one, okay? I'll just start playing, and then come in when you feel like it. Stand up. What's your name? That's it? Stand up. Stand up to the ring. He's got one. Through the Caribbean, picked up a lot of different types of sounds and flavors. Let me see if I can, this is still, help me download this thing forward. Yeah. I don't know why. I want to tell you a little story about something that happened. When we're touring, we're traveling, in this case, with 90 musicians and 3-stage crew, a librarian, 4 managers, and we all travel together, 4 buses in this case, and a couple of trucks. I did do, not that long ago, I was asked by John Williams, they were sending out a tour of Star Wars in concert hall. It was a music of all 6 Star Wars films, with a symphony orchestra, actors from the film, with projections, and we had 13 tractor trailers of equipment with 8 percussionists and 90 musicians, and the setup was immense. We had our own person just to set up all the percussion every night. But logistics, things happen when you're traveling with equipment. These instruments, things break, things happen. So we had gotten to, we were traveling with John Williams, and we were playing a piece called Liberty Fanfare. And it was written for the Statue of Liberty dedication. And it starts out with a big brass fanfare, and then there'd be a D chime, a big, big chime we have that I would, which is supposed to be Liberty Bell. And I'd stand up, there's a ladder, and I'd go up and I'd hit it. Well, I hit it, it was supposed to be a D, and it was a D flat. So we stopped rehearsal, the stage manager came over, what's the problem? Well, this is a D flat. He says, I thought we brought the D. I said, I thought we brought the D too. Where's the D? He said, it must be back in Boston. And we were in Michigan, and we have a concert in 2 hours. So I said, well, what do you? He said, well, we will have it tomorrow. So I had to tell John Williams we weren't going to have it. So I went to his dressing room, knocked, and said, excuse me, John, we don't have the D tonight. We will have it tomorrow when we get to Chicago. Is it okay if I play it an octave higher tonight, just for the concert? And all he said was, I prefer you didn't. So I took that as a no. I said, okay, thank you. Now I had no idea what we were going to do. So I thought about it, and I also have some instrument building experience. So I had the stage manager get the chime down. It was 12 feet high. Give me a hacksaw, and I started cutting it. Because as we know, when things get shorter, what happens to the pitch? Goes up, right. If you think about a piccolo, it's much higher pitched than a regular flute if it's smaller. So I started cutting. Now, I don't know how much to cut to get the D, right? So I figured, well, if I cut too much, there's no going back. So cut as little as possible. So now I'm in a tuxedo. I have a saw, and I'm cutting and cutting, and then I put it back up and hit it, not yet, bring it down, cutting. This goes on for about 20 minutes. I look at my watch, and it was about 5 minutes before the concert. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's great. So the orchestra's on stage. Now John walks out, and he stands there, and he's looking at me like I'm crazy, and I'm cutting, put it, and he's just watching. And we got it close to D. I said, oh, it's really close. I don't want to cut anymore. Put it back up there. So we put it up, and I have like jump all over my tuxedo. John comes, he puts his arm around me, he says, Neil, that was amazing. He was shocked. He says, how did you know what to do? And I said, well, I do make some instruments, and I do. So it worked out. So we went, the next 3 weeks we're playing, and it was fine. So after our tour, I had a vacation. So I'm on vacation, and my phone rings. And it's from a colleague of mine who was playing at Tanglewood with the Boston Symphony, and they were playing one of the Mahler symphonies that needed a low D flat chime. So he hit it, and now the D flat was D natural. And he calls me screaming, what's wrong with you? You cut the chime. And I said, I had to do it. So he said, what are we going to do? We don't have the D flat. I said, well, get the C and cut it down a little bit. So we got cutting things down, so we had to buy another long time. But as percussionists, we have to be innovative. We have to be entrepreneurial. We have to, things happen, things break, things get misplaced. So sometimes we have to substitute certain things. We learn to be creative in that way. So I'm going to play this thing called One Note Samba. I'm going to play it a couple different ways, just so you can hear how, as a percussionist, sometimes I'm called on to add sound color to different things. Right? saying. They asked me for different sounds. I said, you know, I don't want so much content.
Hey friends, remember getting us on the holidays?
I want to play it one other way. I want to show you one other way I might interpret that piece. That if the music director didn't want so much hand drumming, say, look, I'm looking for a different sound, what can't do? I might add a little Brazilian triangle to it.
This is just a little something with the about to follow up the distant back now. Now there's no one else I come to find out upon the dust of the as I'm bound to be the unknowable consequence of there's so many people who can talk and just say nothing when you read anything. I don't wish I'm always getting a remedy and I don't you know nothing, so I come back to my first love and I must come back to you. I will go into that one the one that I do for you. Anyone who wants to run show, really fast to run TikTok. He will find himself with no show, better say than no tell. Follow up, free pill. Follow up, free pill.
So part of being a percussionist is adding sound colors, is being interpretive, and now I still do, and I used to do a lot of recording, so I'll be pulled into recording sessions. I did something a number of years ago with the rock band Aerosmith. They called me, and so if you come in, we want to add some percussion to our record. So I said, okay, what do you want? And they had no idea. We don't know. So if you don't know how am I going to know what you want? They said, well, just bring stuff and we'll fool around for a couple of days. Okay, so I had all my equipment brought in. I was a moving guy with all my equipment. We're in the studio, and to be honest with you, they had no idea what they were doing. You know, here's a rock band. They don't know anything about percussion. Oh, we want this sound. So I worked with them for a day. We got it done. We laid down a lot of tracks in a day. It cost a lot of money. And guess what? They used none of it. They didn't use any of it. Sometimes you end up doing a recording, and they say, well, we're not going to use it. But it's a job. I got paid. I didn't take it personally. I didn't think, oh, gee, I'm not very good because they didn't use it. To be honest, I really didn't care because the check was good, so. How long did that time? Is it 10 now? 9:29. It's pretty close. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What's your favorite instrument to play?
My favorite instrument to play? You know, I don't have a favorite, to be honest with you. When it comes to timpani, I love playing, in percussion, I love playing timpani. That said, I don't play timpani because that's not my job. So, I love it all. To be quite honest, when I thought about being a musician, I thought if I could play any kind of music on any instrument, that would be great. I can make my living playing music and not working in a factory. For me, some of my friends had passions to be doctors and lawyers, and I really admire that. My own son had no interest in music, wanted to be a pilot. He's a pilot. I see how much he loves flying. He loves flying as much as I love percussion. That's his passion. My passion is percussion. So I just want to make a living playing music. So I think for me, my favorite instrument, well, my favorite thing is the fact that I play so many different instruments. It's not like I'm playing xylophone all the time. I'm stuck on xylophone. I get to play a whole bunch of different things. So that's the beauty of percussion to me, is we're playing tons of different instruments. Now, I want to tell you a little story about, I think I mentioned to you how much I practice. Well, I also like to take time and not waste it. So when we rehearse, we have a 2.5-hour rehearsal and a 20-minute intermission, a break in the middle. So whenever we rehearse and we have, okay, we're going to take a break for 20 minutes, people would run and grab coffee or do different things. I would stay in the percussion section by myself on stage, and I'd be practicing. And so one day, years and years and years and years ago, I'm practicing triangles. Triangles hard to play softly. Especially a roll, really soft, consistent. So I'm practicing the triangle, and the violins are walking past me. And there was an old violinist from Europe, and he's looking, he stops, and he's staring at me. And I just kept going. He said, "Neil, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm practicing." He says, "You practice the triangle? What a stupid instrument. Any child can play that instrument. I can't believe you're going to practice." I said, "Yeah, I'm going to practice." I can't. And he goes on, he says, "I played the triangle in the kindergarten. Any child can play." And I let him go. I said, when he got done, I said, "Side." He's on the side. "Is that violin you're holding expensive?" He said, "Oh, this is one area is $200,000 instrument, the ball $50,000. I take a loan on my house." Well, this triangle is one of the best in the world, and it costs $40. You and I make the same salary. Now we're smart. So he never spoke to me. The fact is, this triangle is not as hard to play or a flute or oboe. And percussionists know it and practice. But what we do as percussionists, when we're playing all the different instruments, drum sets, steel drums, congas, timpani, that's what's hard about percussion, is having all these different techniques available to us at all times, because I don't know next week, I haven't seen a program, I have a rehearsal on something, I don't know what I'm playing. So I have to be able to walk in and play congas, or xylophone, or glockenspiel, or drum set, or cymbal, snare drum. And it's hard to keep those techniques all up at the same time. So and for percussion, that's what's hard, not mastering the triangle, although playing the triangle isn't as easy as it seems. Yes?
Very broad question, but how is like life training?
How is life?
No, I know.
You know something I don't know.
How is life like training?
Temporary, like recording or something?
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you an example. So Nick Jonas, Demi Lovato did a TV show. You know, I knew who they were, and actually, but I didn't know their music. I mean, that's not my thing. So I get the music, and the music is like written crazy. So I go on YouTube, I'm listening to Demi Lovato, I'm listening to Nick Jonas, okay. We got to do, well, the thing is, they use a lot of synthesizers, and they don't use orchestra. So I said, well, what are we going to do? Well, you ever see these things called boom whackers? Yes. Well, the next thing I know, there's this giant boom whacker car. So I call him and said, "What the hell is a boom whacker?" I don't know what a boom whacker is. These two, we'll send them to you. So a big box shows up in my house. It's like 24 boom whackers, these colored tubes. Now, I have no idea what to do with them. So I went on YouTube, I thought, oh, that's how you do it. So you hit them, and I practice it, and now I'm here on this recording doing this thing. Now, if you had asked me, I thought, oh, this is kind of crazy, but it was kind of fun, it was new. So what's happening with music, there was a change in music, in contemporary music. I grew up in the 60s, Beatles and Rolling Stones and these bands. When you buy their records, the records were just an image of what they sounded like live. Today, bands go into the studio, create an album, then they try to sound live, what it sounds like on the album. A lot of electronics. So a lot of the younger percussionists have all kinds of electronics going on. I've seen them with pads, and I saw a guy play his whole concert on an iPad. He was doing this, and it was cool. It was really cool. It's not what I do, but I can appreciate how the technology is used. So I guess I didn't really answer your question. I was contemporary.
Like playing contemporary music, like, how
Contemporary music, well, because I don't anymore play contemporary classical music. I did for many years when I was in school. We got to learn these pieces where you play 4 against 3 and 2 against 7 and all these really hard rhythms. What I'm doing really doesn't have rhythmic content that's that complex in that way. I found it very, very difficult to hear some music in it. I like to hear things that I can actually hum or sing or dance to. So that's not really, if you go to see the New York Philharmonic, they'll be playing some new contemporary stuff that for me, I don't have to do that, so. What I do on the other side of the coin is, if we're playing a chart and I'm playing vibes and I have to improvise and play a chorus, a jazz chorus, I can do that. Where most legitimate percussionists and orchestras can't improvise. So I can improvise in jazz. So that's been very helpful. Any other questions? Yes?
From like your time in Kennedy to like going to the Boston Pops, like what other, did you go like do any other like side bands, and also like what made you choose?
I'm sorry, can you say that again a little louder?
From your time in Kennedy to like joining the Boston Pops, like did you join any like others like outside of school like side bands? And also like what made you choose the Boston Pops?
I didn't choose them, they kind of chose me, but I'll tell you how that happened. So when I got out of college, I was starting to work with the Boston Pops and Symphony a little bit. But I was also decided, well, I always wanted to play a Broadway show. So I came to New York and got a Broadway show. And after a few months of playing the same music 8 times a week, I realized this isn't for me. I don't like this. It's just, you're in a pit, and I didn't like it that much. So I went back to Boston, and I was playing with, I used to play with a lot of singers because I play drum set too. So I'd be playing some jazz singers and things like that. And then the Boston Pops, somebody left, and I got a call, and they said the conductor was Arthur Fiedler at that time. He was a very famous conductor in those days. And he came and he conducted us in when I was in the conservatory. And his manager said, Arthur liked your playing, so come up and see us. He wants to talk to you. Right? So I ran over and I talked to him. And they basically, he said he likes your playing, he wanted me to start playing more. And I just kind of, in those days, it was different. Getting a job was more, you know somebody, the teacher would recommend you. My teacher was Vic Firth, your percussionists probably know that name. He was probably the most famous of all percussionists. And he would get called by conductors, and they need a timpani in Rio de Janeiro. And he'd say, I remember being in a lesson once, he says, do you want to move to Brazil and play timpani? I said, let me ask my mother. You know, I'm in school. Now it's by audition process. They'll announce you audition, and then you submit a resume, and then they screen the resumes. So if you want to get a job in a big orchestra, what you have to do is go to study at a music conservatory or a big music program, and then you can audition after that. I mean, my grandmother used to live at Boston Pops. To be honest with you, I hated it. I thought it was awful. I thought it was like old people's music. I was into Jimi Hendrix and rock and roll. I had really long hair, and I never thought I'd end up where I am, and I'm really happy I did. Because I have friends, a good friend of mine was a rock drummer who played with different acts, and when you're a rock and roll musician, it's a very hard life. It's very, an orchestra, you have some security. It's if you want to have a family and a home and live kind of the way I grew up here in Belmore, I realized being a rock musician, I wasn't going to do that. But as an orchestra musician, I do want to play something for you now. I hope I can get it on here. How many of you have seen the, I'm going to do the tray pack. How many of you have seen the Nutcracker, the ballet The Nutcracker? Raise your hands. Great. Okay. If you haven't seen it, you should see it, especially holiday time. It's really a cool piece. It's written, but who wants to tell me who the composer was who wrote it? Tchaikovsky, right? So there's a number of different dances in characteristic dances, the ballet, in the tray pack, in the Nutcracker. And one's called a tray pack. Tray pack is a Russian dance. And you may have seen it somewhere on a movie where they get down on their knees and they're kicking off and they're like this. It has a lot of tambourine in it. And I want to demonstrate kind of another technique. We have Yeah. That we use on tambourine. Tambourine is a totally different technique than what I was doing before. Can you bring me that chair? So, the thing about a tambourine is it makes it difficult. You're holding it with one hand. You shake it and you're stroking it. But there's times where you have to play it very quickly. And if it goes faster, I only have one hand, I can only go so fast. So we have a technique called the fist knee technique, where you use your knee as another fist. So the tray pack uses this technique. I want to demonstrate it for you and then tell you a little story about it. So that's a tray pack. That was a short piece. You heard it's what, maybe a minute long. So it's a very popular piece in what's called an encore. An encore at the end of the concert. Now, here's a little secret. I'm letting you a very little secret. The Boston Pops always plays encores. Always. Usually two. They're not published in the program. But it's already planned. So we know it. The audience is surprised. They think they're getting something extra. They're really not. They're not going to tell you. But it's planned. So I know what the encores are every night. So after John Williams, we had a very young conductor join us, Keith Lockhart. He's a wonderful music director. And we go out on tour. Usually we leave for tour the day after Thanksgiving for 2 weeks. We travel around the U.S., play Christmas concerts, and come back to Boston. So we leave the day after Thanksgiving. We're in Phoenix, Arizona. And I see this tray pack from the Nutcrackers with an encore. Great. So we're playing in a big arena, 20,000 people, sold out. And the percussionists are in the back, and I'm playing the tambourine. And it's just me, and the other guys are sitting there. And I say, you know what? Why don't we all play tambourine? It'll be kind of cool. I mean, instead of just sitting there, we'll all play tambourine. So we all play tambourine. And then I thought, before we do this, you know, there's 20,000 people. The orchestra, we're in the back. People can't really see us. Let's go around to the front of the orchestra. And we'll run around the front and play, and it'll look really cool. Well, I wouldn't recommend this. You usually don't do this in an orchestra, but I mean, the worst thing that happens is I'll lose my job. All right. So we do it. So the piece starts done, and the three of us go running in front, and the conductor looks like a deer in the headlight. His joy, he doesn't know what's going on. And so we get out, and we arrange for the stage manager to put chairs out. We do our thing. And the crowd went crazy. The people are cheering, and they're on their feet. So after the concert, I'm back at the hotel, and usually the musicians hang out at the restaurant or the bar. We usually eat dinner after the concert. And Keith comes over and says, Neil, that was fantastic. Do that every night. People loved it. That was really good. So we did it, and we had 14 concerts. What we didn't tell him was in the contract that it stipulates if you play in front of the orchestra, it's an extra $100 per concert. I said, okay, we're doing 14 times $1,400. So he didn't know that. So of course we do it. We come back to Boston, get our paychecks. I imagine you all seats $1,400. He said, what are you talking about? Well, we were on tour. We played in front of "What do you mean you played in front of the orchestra? Who told you to do that?" I said, "Well, the maestro asked us to play in front of the orchestra." He did, and he goes over to the conductor, and he comes back and says, "You guys should never allow to come out of the percussion section again." We gotta stay back. We got paid, but we gotta stay back. So, the bottom line is, I think it's important to have fun when you play, even if you're playing in an orchestra or a concert band. You need to enjoy music. If you're not enjoying it, do something else. If you want to be miserable, there's other things that will make you more money, and you can be miserable. But if you want to enjoy what you're doing and appreciate music and love what you're doing, it's really a great career path. I recommend it. I do have something I want to present to the school. I think is this a good time to do it?
Yeah.
Great. I mean, the percussionists may know this, but some of you may not know I own a percussion company, and it's just something that kind of happened. I started making instruments for myself, and now it's one of the leading companies in percussion manufacturing. If anybody wants to buy a percussion company, see me afterwards. But one of the things, we make tambourines and triangles and things, but one of the things we also make are snare drums, which are used by most of the Molly, you want to take? This is a drum we made for the Kennedy High Band. It says, why don't you?
Presented Kennedy High School Band with gratitude, Neil Grover, class 1973.
So, guys, thank you. Yeah, time for a few more questions, maybe? A couple more, or not? Yes?
Are there any recent music discoveries that inspire you?
Any
Like,
music?
in the same way that you were inspired by the Beatles, is there something that today that you look at and go, wow, that's really...
Yeah, guys, hold on, we're not done yet. Are there any things, kind of what I saw at the Beatles that, I mean, I have to say, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in different genres. I mean, I think there's some really great new music out there. I hear a lot, in fact, I hear a lot of hip-hop stuff that I think is really interesting. I hear a lot of things like Hamilton, the music from Hamilton is amazing. I mean, it's really groundbreaking. A lot of musical stuff. I'm not that familiar with some of the contemporary artists. Pharrell, I've heard some of his stuff is great. I mean, there's a lot of really, really good stuff. So I think it's all around. For me, I'm still inspired, mostly now with jazz artists. A lot of the contemporary jazz artists and people doing different things. Chris Botti, who's a great player, jazz player. It's all around, so there's tons of it. I guess whatever appeals to you individually, it doesn't really matter. I was telling Wally this morning that when I came to Kennedy, a friend of mine got me into Frank Zappa. Frank Zappa, really eclectic musician. And I got into his music big time with other people. And Frank Zappa used to idolize this composer called Edgar Varese. So I started listening to his idol. And once I got to Varese, I started listening to Stravinsky, and it started going on and on. So it's kind of like a chain. Everything's kind of connected in a way. But I think everybody needs to find what really appeals to them. Any others? Yes?
What goes into like instrument design? I guess trying to create an instrument.
That's a very good question. When I started making instruments, like a triangle is one of the first instruments. And a triangle is actually very complex in sound. I'm gonna play, you know, every musical sound has a fundamental frequency and a series of overtones or harmonics. So who plays flute here? Flute, great. Who plays oboe? Great. If I asked you to play A440 or an A, we're going to tune, and you played the A, how would we hear the difference between the flute and the oboe? What are we hearing?
Frequencies.
Well, if you're playing 440 and he's playing 440, it's the same pitch, right?
Oh yeah.
There's other frequencies above that.
The overtones.
The overtones. And the overtone is like a signature. It's like the overtones will tell me, oh, that's a flute or that's an oboe. But the overtones are harmonics or other sounds, other frequencies above the fundamental. So 440, typically it's 880 and then up from there. But the triangle also has overtones. I'm going to play. Is that high enough? I hear a whole bunch of sounds in there. That gives it a nice shimmer. Those are overtones. And with a triangle, it might seem it's just a piece of bent metal, which it is. But the metal has to be hardened to a certain degree, heated and cooled, shaped. The shape is very important, the angles. So it's a little more complex than you think. With tambourines, a lot of it has to do with size. You see those jingles of different materials, different alloys, they're hammered differently. So create this is a different sound than this, much lower and darker. So I use this for some things, I use this for other things. So it has to do with materials, understanding resonance of materials, design, and some of it is just experimentation. You just have to try things and figure out what sounds good. It's been a very long time. I ended up going back to school years later and studying acoustics and metallurgy so I can understand some of these things. Because there's not a lot written about musical instrument construction. Anybody else? Yes?
What advice would you give like musicians like us trying to like make it in the music industry?
If you want to make it in the music industry, well, here's the thing. There are lots of opportunities. Everybody looks at music kind of like it's an iceberg. So the tip is performing. Everybody sees, wow, I want to do that. But below that are all kinds of support activities. There's professions with librarians, arrangers, composers, managers. Every one of our managers used to play an instrument. Our artistic administrator was a trumpet player. The executive director played trumpet. We have people who played instruments that I love music. I want to be in the music business, but I don't want to have to play my instrument to earn my living. The truth is the highest paid, other than conductor, the highest paid employees are usually the managers. Managers usually make more than musicians. They're people who typically may have gone to music school and gotten an MBA after that, or gone to law school after music school, or not gone to music school but play an instrument or love music. There is an organization called NAMM, National Association of Music Merchants. If you go to their website, namm.org, there's a lot of information there on all the different career paths for musicians. And there's many more for people who don't play professionally than there are who perform. There's a lot. Music publishing, different things. There's a lot of schools like Berkeley in Boston where they have music production majors or music business. There's a lot. Those are great degrees because they're always looking to hire people. There's a shortage of people. Where the players, there's too many people. There's more people that play than are jobs. The other way is the other way around. I think the last one, yeah.
Are there any ideas you have for like niche musical groups that could play in a high school like ours?
Yeah, well, you know, don't be afraid to experiment, to put together, like say you have a bassoon player friend, and what do you play?
I play saxophone.
Saxophone. You know, I know guys have saxophone quartets and saxophone choirs, but let's say, look, I have a friend who's a bassoon, and I have a friend who's a violinist. Let's do trios. Let's write something. Hey, let's take a tune we like and arrange it for this combination. And I think that's where the opportunities are. People always look for new sounds and new concepts. I think you need to be an entrepreneur and create your own kind of path in that way. If you look for music written for bassoon and sax and violin, you're probably not going to find anything. So maybe there's an opportunity there. Say, hey, there's probably other people like me. And with the internet today, you can publish your own music, you can make your own recording. I would encourage you to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, everybody, thank you again for having me. It's been a real privilege to come back here.
Thank you.
Coming out. And we'd like to give the first jacket to Mr. Grover.
Oh, that's great.
So, they go back there. You guys can hang here for a little bit.
Yeah, this
That's